The ear is the human organ the public speaker is most likely to try to impress as he makes a speech. But did you ever think of the importance of the eye? The importance of what the listener sees as well as hears?
Well, hello, good looking. Do you come here often? Nice to see you. Have you subscribed to the channel lately? Can I get you a like, share, or subscribe? What's another good line? Or just a line, a bad line. Coming off the eye contact video, I wanted to plunge ahead into what I had sort of previously mentioned, which was a video of Marlon Brando, or as my son says, the Marlon Brando fish, on the Dick Cavett Show, in which Brando discusses acting as necessary to survival. I'll give you some context before I get into it, because I have some threads and some theories going here on the channel, and I know it's not apparent, but I also know that our culture does not teach or talk or speak or communicate well in subtlety at all at this point, even though the majority of it could be said to be almost autopilot or artificial intelligence, even in the sense that, no matter where you go, it's large organizations, and good luck finding anyone who's responsible for anything is what I'm kind of getting at here. And within all this is an understanding that Americans, to quote David Foster Wallace from an essay on America and Americans and our TV culture, from Many Come One, E Unibus Plurum, right? He wrote that Americans are a protean bunch in real life. And you can question why, and the reason why is because we're a commercial and a TV culture, and we've all been raised on serious diets of media and marketing and government conditioning. And I don't say that to be paranoid or conspiratorial, but to say these are the images and the symbols and the arts that we worship. And I mean that when I say worship. How Americans have long loved the actor and the cult of acting, as well as how that now manifests in influencers no different, right? As well as most other content on the internet. There are elements of acting in all of it, because the moment you turn on a camera, authenticity goes out the window, even for the most authentic person. So why is acting so noteworthy? Because it's so unnatural, at least to the person taking it in, believing in the act, and then recognizing that it's an utter suspension of disbelief, right? That it was an utter act. It wasn't even real. So we are a culture that worships what isn't real, and those who can perform what isn't real well. This is the art to which everyone aspires in their speech, in their appearance, in their behavior. And if you don't believe me, either you're in denial or you don't understand America and Americans or the Greeks at all.
Now just suppose you were a beautiful doll with rosy cheeks and big blue eyes, a doll that never talked. Or a tree that basked in the warm sunshine and rustled in the breeze, a tree that never spoke.
Nephew of Sigmund Freud, Austrian neurologist, and the founder of psychoanalysis, Edward Bernays was most commonly known as the father of propaganda. Using what he learned from his uncle and mother, another known psychoanalyst, he began to form a way to engineer consent, to control and regiment the masses according to our will, without their knowing about it. John D. Rockefeller was beginning to invest his fortune into the education system, creating the GEB, a promotion of education to the common person, with his advisor and co-founder of the GEB, Frederick Taylor Gates, famously stating, "We shall not make these people or any of their children into philosophers, or men of learning, or men of science. The task we set before ourselves is very simple, as well as a very beautiful one, to train these people as we find them to a perfectly ideal life, just where they are. So we organize our children into a little community and teach them to do it in a perfect way."
It rubs the lotion on its skin. It does this whenever it's told.
Now hold on. Secretaries, Worker drones? Where's the fun? Huh? Where's the spark? Where's the unspeakable evil?
I was just getting to that. We are going to impact every field. Cosmetics, military, novelty house pets. And why should we stop at consumer products? Hell, we can design a whole new consumer. A few well-placed drops in the water supply and bingo! It's a whole new master race. And we own the copyright.
This guy's good.
We lured him away from Pepsi.
In fact, what it means only is that they are not authentic. That what they feel, what they think, what they do is not the result of an activity in them, but of something they are told, but told not even usually directly, but by implication, by signals. We obey today by signals, while 100 years ago we obeyed because we were told that's what you have to do, and if you don't, you will see what happens. This was a much cruder, but in fact a much healthier method.
But in a way, in a subtle way, it's the same thing again.
Yes, it's worse, because how can I protest, how can I know that this I want and this I don't want if I'm never told I have to do this? I prefer to be told, then I know that I obey, rather than to get signals which operate in a subliminal or indirect or unconscious way, like in an animal experiment. As far as there is authoritarianism today, in the overt sense, I think masochistic and sadistic elements are in it, just as I try to describe them. But I think authoritarianism is overt authoritarianism is yielding to covert authoritarianism today, namely to the manipulation of men by signals.
The authoritarian pattern of escape is gradually diminishing into the automaton pattern that you talked about.
That's right, and here too, in our industrial bureaucracy, while we pay lip service to individuality, to private enterprise, private and individual initiative and so on, we also get more and more into a bureaucratically organized society in which really the average person is the organization man. That is to say, the man who has escaped into automaton conformity. Into a more and more bureaucratic system in which, with the illusion of independence, man becomes more and more little cog in the machine, little organization man.
Right here, right now, we are building a better tomorrow for those who uphold the vision of EES.
Bill, if I could just add one thing. Those who dare oppose us will stand knee-deep in the blood of their children.
Or suppose you were a spring flower, contrasting your colors with the blue sky. Do you know how you would be judged? You'd be judged mostly by your appearance, by the way you looked.
The Romans too, and also the Christians. But I've gone on long enough here on this, so we're going to get into this. And some context real quick is to say that it's Marlon Brando, right? The Godfather. You know, this the day of my daughter's wedding. I probably have to work on that one. It sounds like a bit like a corpse, like a president or something. Just incomprehensible, right? But getting to this, it's Brando on the Cavett Show. And Dick Cavett was an American talk show host, late night talk show host. For those of you who don't know what that is because you were raised on the internet, it's kind of like boomer technology before there was the influencer or the YouTube or the TikTok. There was old white guys and occasionally an Arsenio Hall on television, and then have a variety show where they have on actors and people promoting products and things. And, you know, this is all the corporation state, right? This is all Hollywood and state-sanctioned FCC-approved stuff, right? So this is coming out of the main thrust of our culture. And this is what I think a lot of people don't understand about American culture, what I got into on the eye contact video. And that's to say that, you know, there are dividing lines here. And part of that is basically the corporation state and everything that exists alongside or despite that or regardless of that, i.e. small business entrepreneurs who've all been but destroyed with how middle management had figured out to, you know, just run production through the roof until the whole thing collapses. But now that we're on the verge of basically what appears to me to be another 2008, let's take a look at what was happening back, a few decades ago with Marlon Brando and Dick Cavett, because it turns out it's all really relevant, especially to politics, as much as it ever was. So I have the stream set up here. Oh, I'm already boomerang it. There we go. Boomerang my technology. Monkeying my technology just fine. Let's see, Brando. What's up?
Why do you downgrade acting as a profession?
What?
I say, why do you downgrade acting as a profession over the years?
What makes you think I do?
So, just to give you the context, Cavett is asking Brando why he downgrades acting. Why does he speak poorly of acting? And then Brando is saying, why do you think I do? And here we go.
Well, I've read it in the press. Saw it in black and white.
He's taken off his shoe. In many cultures, this is a sign of the biggest sign of disrespect, right? Throwing or hitting a shoe, someone with a shoe. But to make clear what we're going to be covering here, it's not just the words, it's especially the body language and the energy. You can just see it. You can watch it in their bodies.
I can't believe it.
So, I'm pointing to the screen here. But I want you to notice how Brando is just digging his foot into the carpet here. There's violence behind all this. And back to acting, if people still don't get what this all means, it's that men are polite to each other, not because we want to be, or even that we need to be, or we have to be, or we should be. We don't have to be anything. We should be anything. Like, none of these, what people think and assume about us is just clearly wrong, right? So my point I'm getting at here, we learn to get along with each other because of the real threat of violence with us. So relationships amongst men and women are not equal on these fronts. And in this case, we're talking about two Hollywood corporate people, even though, Brando's a different class and taste, right? Great style as an actor, and obviously his own expression here and what he's wearing. But let's keep going. I want you to pay attention to his feet, the Brando fish. Observe the rare Marlon Brando fish's hands and his shoes and his face.
The press, I don't know what we can believe in this country. You know what I mean?
Right, and see how old that meme is. Just so you guys know, journalism has always been a crock. Journalism has always been bad. It's always been bad for people. It's always been borderline illiterate swill to sell products in advertising space. This is most American media. The only reason it's funded is for advertising space. And in case you didn't notice, over time, the advertising went from just plain selling to commercials that topped acting and Hollywood levels of production. So I want you to understand how commercialism has co-opted art. Right? This is why everyone and everything is so cynical, because our highest forms of expression have been completely commercialized, consumed, bought, resold. The whole thing basically at this point is still selling the fantasy, despite the fantasy falling apart in front of everyone's eyes. I hope I said that well. Well, I know it can be bitter medicine for some people who are still borderline scratching their heads or whatever the case may be here. But let's keep going.
Though you've said over the years, it's not a fit profession for a man.
In an effort to help your ratings.
Right. All right. So, right. Pleasant insult. Right. Just glide right past that. Smile right to his face as he says it. See his hands grasping the seat. Right. Violence, constraint, or maybe he's just acting to. Basically, he's acting. Right, that's what being high maintenance is. That's what being difficult is. It's all acting when everything for humanity has always been sheer necessity. Again, when I talk about the naivete of Americans, and I guess by now you might have seen in my last eye contact video the reality gap, or whatever I called it, about what Americans perceive to be wealth and status and what it really is like in this country, you know, the illusions that everyone buys and sells versus reality. Here we're seeing it playing out. And the idea is that no one has to act like this, right? In theory, no one has to act like anything, the theory goes. But acting shows you that we can learn to sublimate our feelings and our emotions. But now I'm getting ahead of ourselves, so let's keep watching. Professionalism.
I'll maybe say something. I think that we couldn't survive a second if we weren't able to act. That acting is a survival mechanism, and it's a social unguent, and it's a lubricant. And we act.
He's right. Did you hear that? He's saying it's a social lubricant, right? Like, you'll forgive something to spare group harmony, but if it's just you one-on-one, you might need to call someone out on something or have that confrontation. Usually we're avoiding conflict because it's so energy costly and and it costs a lot. And I guess getting to the point of, like, if we're wondering what the real game's being played here, I guess if I mentioned that there are themes and points to my channel, it's understanding what civilization really is. It's a means to control the two most expensive and valuable things in the world, male emotions and female reproduction. Notice I didn't just call them the most expensive things in the world, which they are. I also called them the most valuable things in the world, right? Because without valuable men, there is no art, there is no civilization, there is no family, there is no hunt, there's no, right? What is there without men investing in their family and their society, without their behavior lining up to what's good for them, their family in the short term and the long term? Because as America is teaching the world right now, look what it looks like to sell out your future. Right? I want everyone to see this. Well, everyone can see this. That I'm sitting here pointing to it is beside the point. Let's keep watching.
To save our lives, actually, every day.
Don't believe me? Ask ADOS people. You don't know who ADOS people are? They are, well, definitely some of my people, but African descendants of slavery.
People lie constantly, every day, by not saying something that they think, or saying something that they don't think, or showing something.
Yes, dear. No, dear. Yes, sir. No, sir. Or as a friend of mine once said, I meant F you, but I said good morning. He became a better actor over time.
Something that they don't feel, or trying to give the appearance of feeling something that they don't actually. I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, but that's not acting.
That is acting.
Let me rewind it real quick.
Or showing something that they don't feel, or trying to give the appearance of feeling something that they don't actually. I said that, didn't I?
Yeah, but that's not acting.
That is.
He's not just saying it; he's demonstrating.
Acting. That is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
See, and Dick's being coy here. Dick's being real coy, and Brando is not having it. And more than that, there's something greater taking place here too, because you'll see.
You know what I mean.
When you're frightened, or when you're nervous, when you're frightened or nervous in this chair, or you're distressed or uncomfortable, or you're very angry.
Yeah. Right, very angry. I said F you. I meant good morning.
And you know that is not what is necessary.
Yes, Sensei. See that?
You're very angry.
Yeah.
And you know that is not what...
A man of taste and style and class through and through. You see that? He's so good. You see what he's doing here? He's just absolutely, in control of the situation. He is master of his domain. None of this is a question to him. He's not uncertain. He knows what he's saying and why. I could go on and on. Let's keep going.
What is necessary what cannot be shown here? You control your face. You're a highly controlled person.
Right? What did I say earlier? That the whole magic of it is that you remember, oh yeah, this is an act. Even ideas of authenticity, again, the moment you put a camera to it, it's a production. Even if you think it's authentic, it's not. It's a production. I'm putting on a production. I am me. I am a professional. This is also a production, right? Same thing with every other content creator, even that quiet, well-spoken or quiet, soft-spoken person who you just think is just themselves and nobody else. You're not seeing what's going on underneath or around necessarily, and that you sometimes can only further obfuscates, because that's part of image and acting too, right? That's what an aura is. That's what a reputation preceding you is, right? That's what having a name is. These things matter to us as human beings, and not in some fake, not in that fake imitator sense I said, but in the very real sense that our lives and our families and our futures depend on it, as a matter of fact. So we're going to keep watching here.
And
really?
And you have to do that.
Right. So he's being coy.
And you have to do that.
Brando's saying you have to be professional, right? You have to sublimate your feelings. You have to deal with what's in front of you, because life, day after day, hour after hour, right? There's not always fireworks. There's not an audience. It's not sexy. It's work. It's discipline. It's thousands of hours developing skills and talents and understanding and knowledge, or maybe it's just you spend your life only slaving for a paycheck, right? There's different approaches to life. It's not up to anyone else to do that for you. That part's on you, individual viewer, watcher, not actor.
I see.
See, and Brando's smiling here because Dick is still being coy. He's still playing a game. Brando he's acting and giving the appearance of levity and flow, but he's holding Dick to account here. And this is the hardest thing to do with Americans, with actors. Back to what I said, we are a protean bunch, right? Bunch of chameleons, they are.
But you know what I mean is...
Right, there's wallflowers too, they'll blend right in.
We got into this on the phone. Say that's acting. That's not. I'm motivated at that moment to do that, and I can do it. And suppose there's a guy here that I think is a schmuck, is a bore.
So, he literally calls Brando a schmuck and a bore. So you
got into this on the phone. You say that's acting. That's not. I'm motivated at that moment to do that, and I can do it. And suppose there's a guy here that I think is a schmuck, is a bore, and you invite...
Guys, the world is filled with pettiness and jealousy and hatred and little biting, stabbing, parasitizing, gonna drag you down, gonna suck you down, gonna pull it out of you, gonna extract as much value, just to a screw, to this world of screws. You are another screw to be screwed, like as far as the state and the corporation, and probably most of your fellow human beings and your family. And if you're an American, you've experienced all this, so you know exactly what I'm saying, right? Like, yeah, this is kind of the way it goes, right? That people are like this. It goes with that protean nature. It goes with our highest arts, and right, they can't say I'm better than you. They can't put themselves above you. So they'll try and reach under and get under your skin, right? That's why we have comments or words like, and phrases like backbiting, right? A snake in the grass. We have words and terms for people and behavior like this for a reason. And I'm calling all Americans to account and standard here with this, saying, Brando does the right thing. Like, what it would be a waste of the least valuable thing Brando could do with his time right now is get violent in any way. That's nothing to him. That is beneath him. That is not money to him. That is not his taste satisfied. That is not his class or his style. Well, he is a violent man and a man of violence, and he portrayed them well. Because I think as an actor, you can only show what you have in you. If you don't have it in you, you can't actually act that, right? This gets into finer art territories and also literary analysis, which is I'm saving for a non-React video series on literature. So I'm gonna bookmark that or put it on the shelf, and resume it later. Let's get back to this.
Frankness. And I can act like he's interested for a time. I'm motivated by that. But if you wake me up at 9 or...
Right, so this is the kind of thing where people start saying, oh, these are choices. And it's kind of understood at this point that there's no such thing as free will. There's weak or strong wills, right? You kind of will or you're willed, right? You work for yourself or someone else. Why people try to lie their way around this. And again, this is what a subliminal culture of so much signals and deception and doublespeak has done to people's minds. They can't handle the truth that, hey, if you're not actually paying for yourself, you might be a liability, right? A lot of people cause more damage than they ever generate in value, like monetary or otherwise. Think about it from this perspective, that a lot of people are just damage. That's all they provide to the world. There's here, and they inflict themselves on. Worse when they think they're entitled to anything. But, this is when I said men don't have to be anything. This is what I mean, that the world takes for granted anything like goodwill in us, because it's not a given, it's not a promise, it's not a guarantee, and our culture can't even educate it. Our school system can't even educate it. Now we're getting far off into the weeds here. So let's get back to...
Or 8 the following morning and say, do that same performance before a camera.
We'll get away from what's real to what's fake.
And then do it again and again. I can't. Some people can. Some people do it wonderfully, and you seem to do it better than almost anybody. And so there've got to be gradations.
All right, and now he's giving credit where credit's due, and obviously, Marlon Brando Fish was one of the greatest men in his time and his place, at least in terms of actors.
I won't hear of the fact that what you do is no more than what I do.
Well, that isn't true. If you're working for an ad agency, some product...
Right? He's like, all right, Mr. Corporate here, right? Like, let me point this out, what we've been doing here, this game we're playing, that we're always playing, because this is... Like, the corporation state isn't just Hollywood and MTV and the Boomer and all these other cultural memes. It's been our way of life and our monetary system and our literature and our social media. It's like everything. And it's all focused on status equals power equals money. It's only which sum is true. Money is the actual stand-in for the real value. The real value is being a valuable and desirable person. That's the real value. And then the money comes, the development of that character and that discipline and those skills, right? I keep saying skills, right? These are all skills we're talking about here. Like, it's not theory. It's not it's the ethos. If we're talking about philosophy, it's the ethos of it. We have the pathos. If you know the values, you know how to act. You know what's most valuable with your time. So again, back to Brando's time, it's not violence, but he sublimates it well, i.e. he's a good actor. And acting and sublimation are actually the rarest forms of repression, because, people don't seem to get this, but, it's just, humanity is repression. That's what, if civilization is about controlling male reproduction and, or male emotion and female reproduction.
Appearance is the basis of which a little... A man's prosperity is often judged by the appearance of his home, and thus is man himself judged. Yes, appearance is important.
And you hate the guy that, the idea man, the boss, and you know that every time he comes in with some impossible notion, something that really makes you gag when you drive home on the freeway, you know damn well that you're not going to get a raise, or you're not going to get it shifted out of the position that you're in if you don't say, Leonard, I think that's terrific.
Yeah. Oh, gee golly, mister, what a great idea. Oh, this is great. We're so enthusiastic, and isn't this the best product ever, and everyone's saving the world, and everyone's this, right? Like, people go with the flow. People generally do not step out of conformity with the herd. And back to our advertising consumer culture that is our way of life, that is our art, that is our acting, that is our literature, that is our, like, post-dystopic postmodern fictional future here of still selling this fantasy and a new reality as the old one falls apart. I'm kind of getting at something here.
It's just beautiful. And you even shifted out of the position that you're in if you don't say, let's get a raise. Or you're not going to get it shifted out of the position that you're in if you don't say, Leonard, I think that's terrific. Yeah. It's just beautiful.
Generally thought of as eating shit. I mean, if you're a man in this world, you've had to do it, just like you've had to make mistakes, just like you've had to fail. If you haven't failed, if you haven't made mistakes, if you hadn't had fights with men and women, if you haven't encountered the world and the people in it, if you haven't had to eat shit, I don't even know that I wouldn't call you a human, and I wouldn't trust you. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe I'd say I definitely wouldn't trust you, because what's there to trust? Like, there's not much substance. That means if you haven't failed, it means you haven't tried. And if you haven't experimented, it means you're very narrow and you don't understand that to maintain and figure out anything that works and then to maintain it, that takes experimentation and risk. And not all risk, but no risk is always more dangerous than risk, period, because life is change, right? The seasons change. You don't wear the same clothes the same day unless, I don't know, you're pretty much everything I could say here is not politically correct in America. I was going to say temporarily unhoused. And now, see, I'm just having fun with it. Man, it's a nightmare. You know, the world is violent and Americans are very naive, especially because I think they're so well protected by our system that they don't have the firsthand experience. So they have the luxury to afford being naive and thus being very blind to the underlying violence of everything. And when they see it and it happens, it usually doesn't matter unless it can be politicized by some group. And that's my theory on Americans and their marketing and their agenda and their acting, bad acting.
And you even lean forward, put your elbows on to show enthusiasm, and you get a face for it, and you do it day after day after day in order to survive in your job.
Yeah, but if you had to do the line, Leonard, I think that's terrific 6 times and get something deeper and better into it time after time. That takes an actor.
People say all sorts of
things. What did you say?
I said those are one-time things where you have an immediate motivation.
No, they're not one-time things because it's a daily procedure.
Yeah, but the dialogue.
That's discipline. That's development of skill. That's repetition. If you're not actually doing that, you're not doing anything. You're existing like a sea cucumber, bumping around day to day. That's hardly a life fit for a human being. Maybe I kind of missed it, but there's a part in here where Brando says, well, he kind of mentions, or Dick mentioned it earlier, that's the thing, that Brando says acting is not fit for a man. And he's not wrong in the sense that if the man is not well grounded, he will get carried away and lost in this. You know, the world and our culture is filled with example of just effeminate men, wealthy effeminate men losing their minds, screaming like girls, acting like anything but men, right? Like there's a lot of men in our culture like this, and a lot of wealthy men, right? Valuable men. They have money is what they have, right? They usually lack charisma. They usually lack style. A lot of them are young, so they lack experience and wisdom, and it comes out in the fact that this is our kind of shallow culture of image contest, right? It doesn't even matter that it's not real. Who can snap the best photo? You know, this is a reminder and a dividing line of what's real and what matters, and why these things matter within our culture and what they mean to us. Because it's clear to me that no one understands it at all. They don't even understand what exactly took place with the corporation state. Anyway.
Dialogue changes all the time, but you're able to
take it. The dialogue changes, but the motivation doesn't.
Right.
Are you saying that I could play any role you can play as well as you can?
See, and when people do things like this, again, they're being coy, they're being stupid. He's not trying to facilitate dialogue or conversation. He's trying to stop it. He's trying to be interrupted. He's trying to be a wise ass. Maybe he's appealing to the lowest common denominator of an American audience, being like, huh, here's a stupid thing to say, like I'm Like I'm clever and witty. Morning. See, I can't even. I hate it so much. I've like purposely forgotten it. That tone of morning radio. It makes me sick. Just like our journalism in its 5th grade writing level to sell as much product as possible, regardless of what's actually being said in the paper. Well, you see the results of it all. This is what I'm getting at. And if you guys don't value this, like I don't value the kind of culture we've produced and we keep producing, that's why I'm addressing this. So it's clear.
Well, that might not be true, but I don't think that I could play some roles as well as you could play them.
Right, exactly. Everyone's better at certain things. Everyone has certain proclivities. Everyone has certain challenges, right? It's a unique set of skills and challenges with each person. And by trying to be like other people, people completely take for granted what they only and actually are, which is the clay that bears their name. You are not another person. I am not another person. I can only be me. You know, that's going to entail a certain range of a certain amount of things. Some of it was my developed taste. Some of it seemed there from the start. You know, it's hard to say with these things. And I don't want to take up too much time here.
I don't think I could play the role that you're playing now.
Right? He's so good at it, you forget this is an act. This guy is not thinking any of this. He's just playing along in the moment.
But this is me. I'm letting it all hang out.
No, it's not.
Mask. Put the mask back on. Quick.
It isn't.
See? And then Brando's stripping the mask as quickly as Dick can try and put it back on here. This is the key moments. These right here.
This ain't me.
I mean, I think that you're thinking of 60 things at once. How is it going? Is it getting dull? Is he upset and distressed and inarticulate? Is he...
That's right, so good. Is he distressed? Is he upset? Is he articulate? Yes, sir. He is all three.
Is he bored? Is he offended? Yeah, here's a good time.
Right, and he's burying him right now. He's peacocking right now is what he's doing. He's just flashing because Dick, he's basically holding up a hand of cards and Dick is trying to understand and play along. And then the clear distinction of rank and order here in acting is who's doing it better, who's playing a better game, who's actually, I don't want to say being understood because I would say that acting is not understood.
Joke, we haven't got much time. You're thinking about 9 million things and reacting to what I say, and how's that going to be? Is that going to be offensive? No, that's good. So you're doing this.
Everyone does this, right? This is why people are protean bunches. This is why Americans are especially protean, given our culture and its judgments and its values or lack thereof.
Editing at an insane rate. And and you have to do that, and that's your job.
See, now Dick's way too interested here, right? He's showing his hand. He's just eating out of Brando's hand, and the Brando fish is about to devour its prey.
You have this demeanor of levity and lightness and amusement and zest, and it's easy to ascertain that finally isn't what goes on in your mind or your...
Right. It would be see. I guess I'm getting upset from the start here because immediately I think of social media, and that when people look to these productions, especially when they think, oh, this is authentic or simple or just real, it's like, no, actually an insane amount of work and thought beyond a lot of people's, beyond their comprehension a lot of times is going on. And in this case, it's not just an influencer or two influencers, it's entire casts and productions and a live audience broadcasting to millions of a at-home audience. So, these, and it's all happening in real time, mind you. So there is no re-editing. There is no making it look glossy. There is no, well, you can try in the moment, but you're going to see
feelings at all.
I just feel like all my clothes have been taken off.
That's right. The mask is down. And see, here's the thing. Brando's about to ego death this guy, and he should take it. He should take it like a man, but he fucking doesn't. And this kind of thing is intolerable amongst men. When men won't recognize a sincere moment of recognition, eye contact, right, between two men, two potentially dangerous animals. This is where silly people get destroyed in this world. This is where naive Americans get themselves destroyed or ruin their reputations or say or do stupid things because they're just really out of touch with reality.
No, but that's something.
Right? He's trying to put the mask back on, and Brando's like, okay, I'm going to try to have this sincere, real moment. Be a real human being for once in your life, American. Right? Is it so hard? Or is everything an act? Is everything a script? Is everything a line? Is everything a joke? No, everything's cynical. Everything's ironic. By ironic, I mean, don't ask me what I mean. You can't ask me what I mean. Oh, you don't know what I mean? I already knew everything yesterday. I'm too cynical, cool, flat, numb, right? This is the culture that is completely rotten out, guys, and how it's sold and how it's marketed and just repackaged and resold.
That I couldn't do. I couldn't do what you do. And that's a different kind of acting. You're playing a different kind of role. But anyway, we've done enough. We've made enough concessions.
He's recognizing that he said we've made concessions, right? What did I say? Communication is conflict. You thought this was an interview? This was a fight. This was one of the most effeminate fights you ever saw and had stripped bare in front of you. Right? And he's just saying, right, like he was going to put that knife through this guy's heart, and this guy should have just accepted it, and he could have been in love and worshiped Brando forever, and he could have had his God. But he didn't allow it to happen. Instead, he had to be petty, he had to resist, he had to not be sincere, he had to not be authentic. So you have disturbances of both personal feeling and group feeling. The group being both of them, that neither of them happy, and that individually neither of them are happy. What's the point of even being a group then? You don't have a group at that point, right? What is this? This is an act. This is a production.
What are you doing there?
It's a fight.
Oh, nothing. I just have a commercial to do.
See, and he didn't even have anything to say at this point. He does kind of, this is about the most, it is the most humble moment. And if you recall earlier, if you've already forgotten, remember Brando picked up the product earlier and said, right, I'm helping you get ratings to sell products, right? He's reminding you that this is a form of journalism, late night TV, yuck, right? It's always been kind of the safe, like the journalistic kind of cutesy. Like there's been some good comedians. I don't want to talk too much smack here. But on a value scale and on a ranking scale, it's what we call the definitely more on the low side of art. Just like, because that's what stand-up comedy is, and everyone knows that. Well, and you say for the people it matters to, they know that.
You couldn't do it. Let's see if you're any good at it. All you do is look up and read off the.
See, and then. There's no need for this kind of thing, guys and gals. If this is how you're gonna do it, you get to the and. Because it's a bit, you could read it as sincere and you could also read it as ironic. And I want to give Dick the benefit of the doubt here. Like, let's watch a little bit longer. Because I think, Brando's reaction tells you not, right? Brando says, okay, F this guy, right? He's done. He's just done. He's probably, I wonder if we looked at this, if he ever came back on this show again. I don't know, actually, right? I don't know the history here or the full lore behind it. But he's also, he's kind of repeating what Brando said earlier about, that certain people are going to do certain roles in certain jobs. And you can see this in people. Certain people gravitate towards certain jobs. Like, it's hard to imagine certain types of people being anything but what they already chose or gravitated towards. Like, the appearance is the reality. They're doing what they are what they're doing. Right? We've kind of been over this, and I'll keep repeating this, and we'll get further into this as our work here goes on. Let's keep going.
Any way you want.
Right, so now he's being cool, right? And look how charming, and that's Jack Nicholson levels of charisma and magnitude. And look at those crow's feet around his eyes. Like those crow's feet, they like circle around the back of his head and come up underneath his chin there into his jowls and his cheek, right? Like this guy is just charismatic. You want to know him, you want to be him, you can sense his power and his aura. Like there's a lot of things I could say. We're going to keep going a little bit more.
As they say in commercialdom, have fun with it.
Brando looks bored at this point. I'm bored at this point.
No,
the world is bored at this point, because he said it himself, the corporate blah, 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 right?
I'm glad you didn't. What do you mean, the man's incorruptible and that's what I hoped?
So, yeah, he's right? Like, Brando was Brando through and through. He was authentically sublimating his violence. He was demonstrating his acting skill and ability. And he was also making very keen observations, not just on life in general, that you could say for everyone, life requires acting, but especially here in America, given our culture, our people, our HR corporate language, our politically correct corporate language, the conflict that is the communication, right? The subliminal signals and the overt signals and the violence and the reality imposed, whatever it is. So I'm going to keep covering these things, the threads of not just in React videos, but I'm going to cover it in literary analysis as well as my image consulting series on working with people and their appearance, behavior, and communication, and why these things are important, how they matter, how they affect people on the very personal and group levels of things. But I'm also going to further break down these themes and ideas in these React videos, largely around image, acting, marketing, brand, not so much brand, more like positioning, which is a market term for philosophy, right? Because on the market, basically the market was taking everything intelligent in the world and figuring how to level it off so you could sell it. That's what the market is largely for, to accommodate wider amounts of tastes. And in our culture, the low art and the higher art are the same, which is no different than our politics, which is individual versus group, which goes back to our origin as Greeks before we were Romans, before we were Christians, before we were Americans, Europeans, right? Americans, same difference. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you're my audience, I love you. Lots more to come. And shun the non-believers. Not only shun the non-believers, don't listen to their opinions or don't bother trying to refute them. Just to, don't entertain them. Don't waste your time. And certainly don't make an entire culture of cynically carrying around this cancerous material and then selling it back to people as, haha, isn't this cynical art? Isn't this comedy? No, it's not. It's selling the worst and repeating the worst of what our culture has to offer. And it's a lower rent version of something better. And no one wants the imitation. So this has been Image and Acting. I'm Zach Morkowski at Sharper Pen Image Consulting. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Let's play a game. I'm not going to say like, share, and subscribe because none of you don't. But let's play this game. And the game goes, if I articulated something you knew but you didn't know, meaning you kind of knew it, but you'd never pulled it out of yourself, or you never brought it to the fore of your mind to really say, hey, I know this, but you've known it through experience and your own observations, right? Meaning I'm not gaslighting, I'm actually confirming your experience and your understanding. If I've done that to you or for you, you have to like, share, or subscribe because you just met me. This is new. No one's ever done this before. So it would have had to happen in there. Anyway, thank you. Shun the non-believers.
Appearance is a powerful factor, and appearance is something you can control. In public speaking, your appearance may make the difference between a good speech and a poor one. Your appearance may help convince your audience you know what you're talking about, or it may convince them you don't know what you're talking about. A good appearance is something that everyone should strive for, something everyone can accomplish.
I felt like I was on a spaceship, and I'm not sure what to do with my hands.
Be good just to hold them down by your side. Yeah, great.
Well, we're real happy with
because like you're programmed from an early age. You don't necessarily think like, oh, my childhood was shaped by marketers, but it absolutely was.